nicer.
We'll be covering a lot of territory today, a lot of history, a lot of story. San Francisco is a port city, a city with salt water in her veins. Take a good look, my friends, for this is no ordinary view. Now, the first thing I want you to do is take a deep breath of that fresh breeze. But hold on tight. The water can get choppy, even on the calmest days, so be careful if you're walking around the deck. As we pull out of the dock, look out the windows and down into the water to see some frisky sea life. If you miss them now, we'll see some later. We are now leaving Fisherman's Wharf behind. Right now, we're passing a number of interesting sights.
Way
Look on the
faster.
left or port side of the ship towards the city. On the tied to the pier is a decent submarine, the USS Pandavian. Both vessels were active in World War II. Now look out the right side, also called starboard, toward the bay. Look for a lone whale. Today, she is designated as a National Historic Monument. From here, you can also see the large sign of the Ghirardelli Chocolate Factory. It's atop the red brick of the building rising above the ship. San Francisco is famous for chocolate, and Ghirardelli chocolate is part of that recipe. Now look farther along the shoreline. You'll see large buildings with red doors. Those are the piers of Fort Mason, several military locations we'll see around the bay today. John Martini is a San Francisco historian. Look at the tower at the San Francisco end of the bridge. Then look down at the concrete foundation the tower is standing on. This was the first great challenge, building a concrete pier in water more than 100 feet deep. Enormous temporary walls were built, enclosing an area in the bay the size of a football field. Water was pumped out, and then the concrete was poured. Next came the two towers. When they were completed, thousands of steel strands were bundled together to form the enormous main cables that connect them. Finally, the road itself was built, starting at both ends and working toward the middle to keep the bridge in balance. It's easy to describe. It was far from easy to accomplish. Imagine working there, day after day, in the cold, in the fog, in the rain. On major construction projects in those days, experience had shown that one workman usually died for every $1 million spent. The budget for the bridge was $35 billion, but Joseph Strauss was determined that 35 lives would not be lost. In addition to its other qualities, the bay is a challenging playground for sailors and windsurfers alike.
Well, that area between Crissy Field and the bridge at Fort Point has become top windsurf locations in the world. It's caused by winds that just howl with the mix of water.
Now we are out on the bay where the water can become choppy and treacherous. In the 1850s, a number of lighthouses were built along the California coast to help guide boats into the bay. 3 of the lighthouses are still there in the bay. But even the lighthouses navigating the narrow harbor entrance had no easy feat. Thick fog, shifting currents, and overly old captains resulted in shipwrecks. In 1901, the wreck of the steamer City of Rio de Janeiro was the worst local maritime disaster ever recorded. The steamer usually transported Chinese immigrants across the Pacific, but in February 1901, there was an American diplomat aboard. He was returning to attend President. Later, the Spanish used it as a military base, and later still, the U.S. Army set up shop. Its open spaces are lined with hiking and bicycling trails, and it is once again an island paradise in the middle of the bay. You can visit it by taking a blue and gold fleet ferry. The government built an immigration center on the island. Angel Island became Ellis Island of the West. For more than 50 years, thousands of Asian immigrants passed through Angel Island. Many of them were held on the island until they could prove that they had relatives already living in the United States.
My name is John Shields. I came here in 1924. I went to the island called Angel Island.
The immigrants who questioned for homes, their answers were compared with statements made by other family members.
First, they asked my name, my parents' names, and brothers, and they know how many dogs, how many windows.
The price of a wrong answer was deportation. But today, the old detention center the one and only Alcatraz Island. It's directly ahead. Once, the only creatures that lived on that barren rock were flocks of pelicans. In fact, that's where Alcatraz got its name. The Spanish named the island after the pelicans, Los Alcatrazes. The U.S. Army decided Alcatraz Island was the perfect place for a fort to defend the bay from invaders. But this cold and windy rock was such an unpleasant place that they changed their minds. It was now the perfect place for military prison, and eventually a federal penitentiary. It was a time when gangsters were becoming heroes to people. The government needed to send a message that crime did not pay, so they created Alcatraz, the very last stop in the country's prison system, the place to send the worst criminals of all.
Yeah, my name is Leon Whitey Thompson. My number was 1465, AC 1465. I was a man that had total hatred in them days. I hated anything that walked the crawl on this earth. And when you got a man like that in prison, you got to get rid of him. And that's what they did. They shipped me to Alcatraz.
These were hard men, kidnappers, bank robbers, killers, men so dangerous that when the first batch arrived by train in 1934, not one was allowed to step down onto free soil. They simply loaded the train cars, one by one, onto barges, and floated them out to the island with the inmates chained up inside. Rumor was that if a man died on Alcatraz, his corpse would leave the same way, stone cold dead, but in chains. With men like these, you could never be too careful. The building you see on top of the hill was the inmates' new home, the Alcatraz cell house. One described it as a tomb of living souls. Some would stay for a year, others for 20 or 25 years or more. To get an idea of the accommodations inside, go ahead and reach your arms out as far as you can from side to side. That's how wide an Alcatraz cell is, only 5 feet across. Now reach your hands up high above your head. That's how tall, and only a bit longer from end to end. The cell house might look huge from here, but it was never completely filled. No more than 300 inmates lived inside at any time. 300. They could all fit on this boat ride today.